Hello everyone, welcome to Lvshun's World. Today we talk about the Russo-Japanese War, of which the main battlefield was in China and finalized with American mediation. After the first Sino-Japanese War in 1895, Japan occupied China's Liaodong Peninsula and Shandong Peninsula, which clashed with Russia's desire to hold these areas. Together with Germany and France, Russia interfered and forced Japan to return. Japan was not strong enough to stand against the three powers, so Japan had to withdraw. Yet asked for 30 million taels of silver from China as a redemption. Japan kept its rage in heart and made a plan of a 10-year rearmament for revenge. Russia had long expanded to China's northeast and dreamed to grab all the areas north of the Great Wall as a Yellow Russia, and it hoped to take a warm water harbor in Asia for Sakhalin Island or Kuyi Island and Vladivostok, and also Haishenwai, where the Russians took over, were only good for sail in summer. In 1900, Eight-Power Alliance besieged Beijing, and Russia sent 200,000 troops to China's Manchuria. In 1903, it ran Lvshun or Port Arthur as a naval base and extended its influences to Korea. Japan and Russia both grabbed for this area and are ready to fight. Japan waged the war first, before Russia accomplished his Siberia Railway. On the night of February 8, 1904, Japanese fleet attacked Port Arthur with 16 torpedoes and damaged 3 of Russia's battleships. Japan used to raid. In 1894, it raided China's North Sea Fleet in the First Sino-Japanese War. In the Russo-Japanese War, it raided Russia's naval base in Port Arthur. In the Second World War, it raided Pearl Harbor and brought the Pacific War. To this neighbor like Japan, people should always keep alert, for it used to attack in surprise. Russia was loose in war readiness, and it didn't expect Japan would do it. The other night, the Russian sailors were having a dance party with lights everywhere and unaware of the worst coming. And the Russian battleships suffered greatly from the torpedo attack. Later, a new Commodore Stephen Makarov waged a counterattack. And on April 13, 1904, he died with his flagship that hit and sank by Japanese torpedo. On May 15, 1904, Japanese battleships were trapped in Russia's torpedo blocking area, and in Florida, Japanese cruiser Kasuga collided with the supply ship Yoshino. Yoshino was broken in half, and with its hundreds of sailors, it quickly sank at China's Yellow Sea, where it had wavered for many years. In former Chinese-Japanese War on the sea, Captain Deng Shichang tried full speed to hit Yoshino, yet he failed. Unexpectedly, Yoshino saw its last days hit by Japanese ship and sank for his fate. Meanwhile, about 130,000 Japanese army entered China from Korea and waged attacks to Russia's troops north of Port Arthur. Both sides suffered casualties of dozens of thousands. Japan took over Fengtian, today's Shenyang, to the Port Arthur fortress held by Russians. A Japanese commander, Nogi Yoshinori, finally took over, yet afflicted a tremendous cost of 20,000 soldiers within several months, including 2 of his sons. And the Russian fleet in Port Arthur was totally destroyed, with more than 10,000 Russian soldiers surrendered on January 2nd, 1905, and left 610 artillery guns and about 200,000 shells. In May 1905, and the Russians' Baltic fleet, totally 58 vessels, came for reinforcement, including 38 battleships. Now, after crossing distance of 30,000 kilometers within 8 months, under the leadership of Commodore Zinovy Rochestavinsky. During the Tsushima Sea battle on May 27th and 28th, the 28 Russian battleships were destroyed and captured, with casualties of 4,830 and war prisoners 6,106. Yet Japan only lost 3 torpedo boats, and with casualties of 117 and injured 583. Before the battle, Japanese Commodore Togo Heihachiro mobilized that the rise or fall of Japanese empire would depend on this fight, and Japan won the sea battle overwhelmingly. Outside the battlefields, Japan do also sought support of alliance and public opinions. Besides making ally with Britain in 1902, it sent envoy Kanako Kentaro to America. Kanako Kentaro studied in law school, Harvard University in 1876, and was a classmate of future U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt, and they kept along very well. During the war, America was neutral, yet President Roosevelt stood together with Japan. In fall 1904, Kanako Kentaro made a sensational speech in his alma mater of Harvard University. He said, "In the Russo-Japanese War, Japan is hard to win. Yet, if we give in our step, that Russia would move forward a step, for Russians are greedy. So we are determined to take arms to fight back, even if we're totally defeated. Yet if our bravery against the Russians could be written in world history, that would be good enough." His speech won a lot of public support in America, and it was also this Kanako Kentaro that invited Theodore Roosevelt to mediate later. During the war, Japan did a lot of work on espionage and instigation. Japanese military attaché to Russia, Akashi Motojiro, and spent a huge amount of money in buying weapons and stir up national independence and revolution in different places of Russia, and disturb the stability of Russia and its effort to the war. He even tried to instigate the revolutionist Lenin and his Bolshevik to stand with him. Anyhow, the rampant revolutions in Russia threatened the role of the Tsar. And German Kaiser William II praised Akashi Motojiro as capable as 200,000 troops. In Japan, also there was a saying that without Nogi Yoshinori, the Port Arthur could be taken. Without Togo Heihachiro, the Japanese Navy could still win. Yet without Akashi Motojiro, the Japan would not win the Russo-Japanese War. In June 1918, and Akashi Motojiro took the position as governor of Taiwan and buried there after his death. After Japan's defeat in Second World War, and his tomb became a waste area and a slum for the soldiers. Later, with Taiwan's Green parties took office, Chen Shui-bian refurbished the tomb and made it a shrine for the secessionists. Japan paid heavy price for the war, though it finally won. It had deployed all its troops and with casualties and injuries of 100,000. Expenditure of 1.7 billion Japanese yen. and when Japan's revenue was only 300 million annually. So it had to ask for loans from Britain and America for 4 times. The war lasted for 19 months and wore Japan down. Even some Japanese hoped to continue the attack to Harbin and Vladivostok. Yet nothing more could be afforded. Facing the huge loss, Japan initially asked Russia indemnity for 3 billion yen and also ceding the Sakhalin Island and the Lvshun Islands. Russia lost the war, yet it had another 1 million troops in Europe and continued to convey them to Asia. The Tsar Nicholas II didn't yield any further, proclaiming no ceding of lands nor any indemnity. Otherwise, let the war went on. Nicholas II disliked the Japanese, for when he visited Japan in 1891 as prince, he was attacked by an assassin and left a wound on his head. He disdained Japanese as yellow monkeys. During the Great Lock of the War, US President Theodore Roosevelt mediated. In August 1905, he invited both Japan and Russia to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, for negotiation. Russia's envoy was Sergei Witt, chairman of the Minister Council. Japan's was Komura Jutaro, who studied in law school at Harvard University in 1875 and also classmate and good friend of Theodore Roosevelt. After 25 days negotiation on September 5, 1905, the Treaty of Portsmouth was reached as follows. First, Russia recognizes Japan's dominance in Korea, and Russia's rights in Port Arthur and Dalian would be transferred to Japan. The Russian Railroad from Changchun to Port Arthur and all the related rights, including mining, transferred to Japan. And Sakhalin Island, that south of the 50th altitude of the North Parallel, ceded to Japan. Japan didn't get indemnity or the whole island of Sakhalin, and somewhat far from the expectation of the Japanese public. And the treaty was regarded as a deal of trade and aroused a large scale of protest and riot in Japan nationwide, and also the collapse of the Japanese cabinet. Russo-Japanese War was undertaken mainly in China, and during the war, the Qing government declared to be neutral, and Chinese suffered casualties about 20,000 and a loss of property that worthy of 69 million taels of silver. After the war, the Qing government asked to join the Russo-Japanese talk and was denied, and American mediation didn't invite Qing government either. Russo-Japanese War is the first war that in recent history an Asian country defeated an European power. A war that the yellow race defeated the white. The non-Christian defeated the Christian country. Also regarded the preclude of the First World War. Although with tremendous loss, Japan became one of the big powers in the world, and Russia suffered defeat and with domestic revolutions occurred, and even the future October Soviet Revolution. Mandarin Qing regained Manchuria back temporarily and considered the adoption of the system of monarch. America focused more than on its interest in the Pacific Ocean and maintained the Russo-Japanese power balance in East Asia. And after the war, Japan became America's major rival in this area, and until Japan's raid to the Pearl Harbor in the Second World War. Above is today's program, and thank you for your joining in, and see you next time. Thank you, bye.